Get your hands where I can see them now, or this gets a whole lot worse for you. The rookie cop's fist slammed against the driver's side window so hard the entire car shook. Senator Raymond Cole's jaw tightened, his hands already visible on the steering wheel, his heart pounding not from guilt but from a humiliation he'd spent his entire career trying to prevent for others. Officer Jake Dawson, badge barely 6 months old, stood with his hand hovering over his weapon, chest puffed out like he'd just cornered a fugitive, his eyes gleaming with the kind of power he'd been waiting his whole life to wield. What this rookie didn't know was that the man in that car had the direct line to the governor and a camera pointed right at him. It was 8:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in May. Senator Raymond Cole was driving home from a community town hall in southwest Atlanta, his third event that day. His tie was loosened, his mind on the infrastructure bill he'd been drafting for weeks. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't swerving. He'd used his turn signal at every light. But when the blue lights flashed behind him on Cascade Road, Raymond did what every black man in America has been trained to do since childhood. He pulled over immediately, turned off the engine, rolled down the window, put both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. And he waited. The officer took his time approaching a classic intimidation tactic Raymond recognized from years of criminal justice reform hearings. When the flashlight beam hit his face, Raymond didn't flinch. License and registration, the officer barked, not even a good evening, not even a reason for the stop. Officer, may I ask why I was pulled over? Raymond asked calmly, his voice steady, respectful. Wrong question. Officer Dawson's face hardened. I'll ask the questions. License. Registration. Now. Raymond took a slow breath. My license is in my wallet in my back pocket. My registration is in the glove compartment. I'm going to reach for them now. Is that okay? Just do it. Slowly. Raymond moved with the precision of a man who knew one wrong gesture could end his life. He retrieved his license, then carefully opened the glove box. As he handed the documents through the window, Officer Dawson snatched them without a word and walked back to his patrol car. Raymond waited. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10. His phone buzzed. A text from his wife, Vanessa, you close? Dinner's ready. He didn't respond. He didn't dare move his hands. But here's the part that changed everything. When Officer Dawson finally returned, he wasn't alone. A second patrol car had pulled up behind the first, lights swirling. Officer Dawson approached the window again, this time with his hand resting on his gun. Step out of the vehicle. Raymond blinked. Excuse me? I said step out of the vehicle. Now. Officer, I've complied with everything you've asked. Can you please tell me what this is about? Dawson's face flushed red. You're being non-compliant and evasive. Step out. Now. Raymond's heart slammed in his chest, but his training not as a senator, but as a black man in America kicked in. He opened the door slowly, keeping his hands visible. As he stepped out onto the pavement, the second officer, an older white man with sergeant stripes, walked up. What do we have here, Dawson? Possible DUI. Evasive behavior. Refused to cooperate. Raymond's eyes widened. That's not true. I've answered every question and... Turn around and put your hands on the vehicle, Dawson snapped. Officer, I haven't been drinking. I'm happy to take any test you. Hands on the vehicle. The shout echoed through the quiet neighborhood. Porch lights began to flicker on. Raymond turned slowly, placing his palms flat on the roof of his Mercedes. The pat-down was aggressive. Rough. Designed to humiliate. Dawson pulled Raymond's wallet out, flipped it open, and barely glanced at the ID. Raymond Cole, Dawson read aloud, mockingly. Fancy car. Fancy clothes. Where you coming from tonight, Raymond? A town hall meeting, Raymond said quietly, his voice tight with controlled anger. I'm a state senator. Dawson laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, you're a senator? Sure you are, buddy. And I'm the president. The sergeant chuckled. Raymond closed his eyes. Stay calm. Stay alive. That's all that matters. And just when things seemed calm, a woman's voice rang out from across the street. Hey! What's going on over there? An older black woman, Ms. Lorraine Jakes, had stepped onto her porch, phone in hand. Go back inside. This is official police business, the sergeant called out. I know Senator Cole. That's my senator. What are y'all doing to him? Dawson turned, annoyed. I'm not going to ask you again. I'm recording, she shouted, holding up her phone. I'm recording all of this. Dawson's face went scarlet. Put the phone down or you'll be arrested for obstruction. This is a public street. I have every right. Raymond spoke quietly, still facing the car. Ms. Jakes, it's okay. Please just stay safe. But it wasn't okay. And Officer Jake Dawson was about to make the worst mistake of his career. If only he knew who else was watching. Dawson grabbed Raymond by the arm and spun him around. You think you're special? You think because you got a fancy car and some old lady vouching for you that you get to talk back to me? I haven't talked back to you once, Raymond said evenly, looking the young officer directly in the eye. I've complied with everything. Oh, you're compliant now. But you were evasive earlier. How was I evasive? You questioned me. You delayed. That's evasive. The sergeant stepped in. Dawson, let's just run his info and... No, Sarge. I want to do a sobriety test. Look at his eyes. Look at how nervous he is. Raymond wasn't drunk. He was terrified. There's a difference. But to Officer Dawson, a black man's fear looked like guilt. Walk that line, Dawson ordered, pointing to the edge of the road. Officer, I haven't had a single drink. I'm happy to take a breathalyzer. I said walk the line. Raymond looked at the sergeant. The older man avoided his eyes. No help there. So Raymond walked the line. Perfectly. Heel to toe. 9 steps down. 9 steps back. Now stand on one leg. He did. No wobble. No sway. Touch your nose with your eyes closed. He did. Every single test. Passed. Dawson looked frustrated. And that's when Raymond realized something chilling. This officer didn't want him to pass. He wanted him to fail. He needed him to fail. Because admitting he was wrong, admitting he'd pulled over an innocent man for no reason would bruise an ego this rookie cop couldn't afford to lose. But here's what Officer Dawson didn't know. 3 houses down, a teenage boy named Jamal had been filming the entire encounter from his bedroom window and he'd already posted it to Twitter with the caption, "They got Senator Cole pulled over on Cascade like he's a criminal. This is crazy." Within minutes, it had 1,500 retweets. Within 10 minutes, a local news producer saw it. Within 15, a camera crew was dispatched. But Raymond didn't know any of that yet. All he knew was that he was standing on the side of the road, hands still trembling, while a rookie cop tried to figure out his next move. A third patrol car rolled up. This time, a black officer stepped out, Officer Simone Carter, a 12-year veteran. She took one look at the scene and her face tightened. She walked straight to the sergeant. "What's the stop for?" Dawson initiated it. "Possible erratic driving." "Possible?" He said the driver was swerving. Officer Carter glanced at Raymond, then back at the sergeant. "That's Senator Raymond Cole." The sergeant's face went pale. "What?" "That's Senator Raymond Cole. Criminal Justice Reform. Community Policing Task Force. He literally testified at the state capitol last month about traffic stop protocols." Dawson's head snapped up. "I don't care who he says he is. I'm telling you who he is," Carter interrupted. "And unless you've got probable cause, you need to let him go. Now." Dawson's face twisted. He was evasive. He questioned my authority. He asked why he was being stopped. That's not evasive. That's his constitutional right. "I don't need a lecture from you, Carter." "Then don't make me give you one." The tension between the officers was thick enough to cut. Raymond stood perfectly still, watching, waiting. And just when things seemed like they might de-escalate, Dawson made his choice. "I'm citing him for failure to maintain lane and disorderly conduct." Carter's mouth fell open. "Disorderly conduct? Are you out of your mind? He created a public disturbance. He didn't do anything. You're the one who escalated this. Raymond finally spoke, his voice low and cold. Write the ticket, officer. I'll see you in court. Dawson smirked. Yeah. Good luck with that. He scribbled on his citation pad, ripped the ticket off with a flourish, and shoved it toward Raymond. Raymond took it without a word. As he walked back to his car, hands steady now, fury replacing fear, Ms. Jakes shouted from her porch. We got it all, Senator. Every second. Dawson spun around. I told you to stop recording. And I told you this is a public street. Officer Carter stepped between them. Dawson. Stand down. Now. Raymond got into his car, pulled the door shut, and sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. Then he started the engine and drove away. Slowly. Carefully. Legally. What he didn't know was this was only the beginning. Because by the time he got home, the video had gone viral and the entire city was watching. Raymond pulled into his driveway 20 minutes later. His wife, Vanessa, was already standing in the doorway, phone in her hand, tears streaming down her face. I saw it, she whispered as he walked up the steps. Baby, I saw the whole thing. He didn't say anything. He just pulled her into his arms and held her. Inside, their son, Daniel, a sophomore at Morehouse, was pacing the living room, laptop open. Dad, it's everywhere. Twitter. Instagram. The news picked it up. Everyone's talking about it. Raymond sank onto the couch, still holding the crumpled ticket in his hand. Vanessa sat beside him. What are you going to do? Raymond stared at the ticket. Failure to maintain lane. Disorderly conduct. Lies. Both of them. I'm going to fight it, he said quietly. Not just for me. For every black man who couldn't. Daniel looked at his father, eyes shining. I'm proud of you, Dad. Raymond's jaw tightened. Don't be proud yet. This is just starting. And he was right. By the next morning, the story was on every local news station. State senator pulled over, cited in controversial traffic stop. The video from Ms. Jakes's phone had been shared over 40,000 times. The video from Jamal's window angle had been viewed by 500,000 people. The hashtag #JusticeForSenator Cole was trending. But Raymond wasn't interested in hashtags. He was interested in accountability. At 9 a.m., he walked into his attorney's office. Michelle Harmon, one of the best civil rights lawyers in the state. She didn't waste time. Raymond, we can fight the ticket. That's easy. But I think we should go further. How much further? Federal civil rights lawsuit. Unlawful stop. Racial profiling. Abuse of power. Raymond hesitated. That'll put a target on my back. They already put one there the second they pulled you over. He nodded slowly. Do it. Michelle smiled. Good. Because I already filed the paperwork this morning. Be honest, what would you have done in his position? That afternoon, Raymond received a call from an unknown number. Senator Cole? Yes. This is Captain Angela Rivas, Internal Affairs, Atlanta Police Department. Raymond sat up straight. Captain. I need you to know something. Officer Dawson's body camera footage from your stop? It's missing. Raymond's blood ran cold. Missing? He claims it malfunctioned. But here's the thing, Senator, this isn't the first time. What do you mean? Captain Rivas paused. In the 6 months Officer Dawson has been on the force, he's had 9 body camera malfunctions. All during traffic stops. 8 of the 9 drivers were black. Raymond's heart pounded. You're telling me he's done this before? I'm telling you we've been building a case against him for 5 weeks. Your stop just gave us the public pressure we needed to move forward. Raymond leaned back, his mind racing. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know that when you fight this, you're not fighting alone. We've been waiting for someone with the platform and the courage to push back. You're that someone. She hung up. Raymond sat in stunned silence. This wasn't just about one bad cop. This was about a pattern. A system. And he was about to bring it all into the light. If only Officer Dawson knew what was coming next. Over the next 2 weeks, Captain Reeves's investigation became public. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution ran a front-page story. Rookie officer under investigation for pattern of racially biased stops. The article detailed 8 other incidents. A black schoolteacher pulled over for suspicious behavior. She was dropping her daughter off at school. A black business owner stopped for matching a description. No description had been called in. A black nurse detained for 20 minutes because her registration was difficult to read. It wasn't. Every single stop, a body camera malfunction. Every single stop, no legitimate cause. The evidence was damning. But Officer Dawson wasn't going down without a fight. His union released a statement. Officer Dawson is a dedicated public servant being targeted by a political figure with an anti-police agenda. We stand by him and will fight these baseless accusations. The Blue Lives Matter crowd rallied. Conservative pundits went on TV and called Raymond a race baiter. Social media exploded into tribal warfare. But Raymond didn't flinch. Because he had something they didn't. The truth. And it was about to come out in the most unexpected way. The court hearing for Raymond's citation was scheduled for a Wednesday morning in June. The courtroom was packed. News cameras lined the hallway. Supporters wore shirts that said, "Dignity doesn't stop at a red light." Raymond walked in with Michelle by his side, his face calm, his shoulders square. Officer Dawson sat on the other side of the room in full uniform, his union lawyer beside him. The judge, a no-nonsense black woman named Judge Evelyn Carr, took the bench. "This should be simple," she said. "Officer Dawson, you issued 2 citations. Failure to maintain lane and disorderly conduct. What's your evidence?" Dawson's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, Officer Dawson observed the defendant swerving within his lane and later becoming verbally aggressive during the stop." Judge Carr looked at Raymond. "How do you plead?" "Not guilty, Your Honor." "Do you have evidence?" Michelle stood. "We do, Your Honor. Multiple video recordings from bystanders. And we've subpoenaed the dashcam footage from Officer Dawson's patrol vehicle." The lawyer looked nervous. "Your Honor, the body camera malfunctioned." "I didn't ask about the body camera," Judge Carr interrupted. "I asked about the dashcam. Those don't malfunction. Pull it up." The courtroom went silent. A technician set up a screen. The dashcam footage began to play. It showed Raymond's car. Driving perfectly straight. No swerving. No erratic behavior. Nothing. The courtroom gasped. Judge Carr's eyes narrowed. "Officer Dawson, what am I looking at here?" Dawson stammered. "Your Honor, I observed. You observed a man driving legally. What I'm observing is an officer who lied under oath." The lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, that's—" "Sit down, counselor." She turned to Raymond. "Senator Cole, citations dismissed. With prejudice." The courtroom erupted in applause. But Judge Carr wasn't done. She looked at Officer Dawson, her voice like ice. "Officer, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for potential perjury charges. Bailiff, escort him out." Dawson's face went white. As he was led out, Raymond didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just sat there, feeling the weight of every black man who'd stood in that same spot without a platform, without a lawyer, without a voice. But this wasn't over yet. Because what came next would change not just one officer's career but the entire department. 2 days after the hearing, the Atlanta Police Department held a press conference. Chief Harold Green stood at the podium, his face grave. "After a thorough investigation by our Internal Affairs Division, we have concluded that Officer Jake Dawson engaged in a pattern of racially discriminatory traffic stops, falsified reports, and intentionally disabled his body camera on multiple occasions." The room was silent. Effective immediately, Officer Dawson has been terminated from the Atlanta Police Department. Additionally, the Fulton County District Attorney has filed charges of perjury and official misconduct. Reporters shouted questions. "Chief, was this because of Senator Cole?" Chief Green shook his head. "This investigation began before Senator Cole's stop. But his case brought national attention to a problem we've been working to address. And for that, we're grateful." Captain Angela Reeves stood beside him, her face proud. We are also announcing a new mandatory policy. All body cameras will be remotely monitored, and any malfunction will trigger an automatic review. No officer will be able to turn off accountability. The room erupted. Raymond watched from his office, Vanessa's hand in his. You did it, she whispered. We did it, he corrected. Ms. Jakes. Jamal. Officer Carter. Captain Reavers. Everyone who refused to look away. Daniel walked in, grinning. Dad, you're trending again. But this time it's #accountability wins. Raymond smiled for the first time in weeks. But the biggest shock came 3 days later. Raymond received a call from the FBI. Senator Cole, this is Special Agent Derek Lawson. We need to talk. Raymond frowned. About what? About Officer Jake Dawson. And the group he's connected to. Group? We've been monitoring an online network of law enforcement officers who share tactics for targeting minority drivers without accountability. Dawson was part of it. And based on the evidence from your case, we now have enough to bring federal charges. Raymond felt his stomach drop. How many officers? In Georgia alone? 37. The room spun. This is bigger than we thought, Senator. And your case is the key that unlocks all of it. Raymond sat down hard. What do you need from me? Your testimony. Your platform. And your courage. He didn't hesitate. You have it. And just like that, a single traffic stop on Cascade Road became the catalyst for the largest federal investigation into racially biased policing in Georgia's history. What Officer Dawson thought was a moment of power became his undoing. 6 months later, the federal trial began. United States versus Jake Dawson and others. 37 officers. Hundreds of victims. Raymond took the stand on day 3. The prosecutor, a sharp young black woman named Kimberly Grant, asked him to recount the stop. He told it all. Every detail. Every moment of fear. Every second of humiliation. When he finished, the courtroom was silent. Senator Cole, Kimberly said quietly, why did you decide to fight this? Raymond looked out at the gallery. He saw Ms. Jakes. He saw Jamal. He saw Officer Simone Carter. He saw dozens of faces, black men and women who'd been pulled over, searched, humiliated, and never had the chance to fight back. Because I could, Raymond said simply. I had resources. A platform. A voice. And if I stayed silent, I'd be complicit in a system that destroys people who look like me every single day. Tears ran down more than one face in that courtroom. The defense tried to discredit him. They tried to paint him as a politician with an agenda. But the dashcam footage didn't lie. The body camera malfunctions didn't lie. The pattern didn't lie. After 4 weeks, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Officer Jake Dawson was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. 12 other officers took plea deals. 23 were terminated. The entire system shook. The changes came fast. Georgia passed the Cole Accountability Act requiring all body cameras to be tamper-proof and independently monitored. The Atlanta Police Department overhauled its training program. Captain Angela Reavers was promoted to deputy chief. Officer Simone Carter became the new head of community relations. And Raymond? He went back to work. But with a new mission. He introduced legislation to ban pretextual traffic stops statewide. He launched a legal fund to help victims of police misconduct who couldn't afford representation. He partnered with the NAACP to create a Know Your Rights campaign for young black drivers. And every week, he received letters. Dozens of them. From people who'd been pulled over for driving while black. From mothers whose sons had been detained. From fathers who'd been humiliated in front of their children. Each letter said the same thing. Thank you for not staying silent. 1 year after the stop, Raymond stood in the same community center where he'd held the town hall the night he was pulled over. The room was packed. He looked out at the crowd, faces of every age, every background, united by a shared experience of injustice and a shared hope for change. A year ago, Raymond began, I was humiliated on the side of Cascade Road by an officer who saw my skin before he saw my humanity. The room was silent. I could have stayed quiet. Paid the ticket. Moved on. But I didn't. Not because I'm special. Not because I'm a senator. But because I knew that if it could happen to me with all my privilege, all my resources, then it's happening every day to people who have no voice. Heads nodded. And I was right. The investigation found hundreds of victims. Hundreds. People who were targeted, harassed, and violated just for existing while black. He paused. But here's what I want you to know. We fought back. And we won. Not just in court. But in policy. In practice. In the culture of accountability we're building right now. The crowd erupted in applause. Raymond raised his hand. But we're not done. Because as long as one officer thinks he can abuse his power without consequence, as long as one mother has to teach her son how to survive a traffic stop instead of just obey the law, as long as one person is judged by their color before their character, we have work to do. The applause grew louder. So I'm asking you not as your senator, but as your neighbor, your brother, your fellow fighter, keep recording. Keep speaking up. Keep holding the system accountable. Because change doesn't come from the top down. It comes from the ground up. It comes from people like Ms. Jakes, who refuse to look away. It comes from young people like Jamal, who use their platform to shine a light. It comes from officers like Simone Carter, who chose integrity over silence. He looked out at the faces staring back at him, hope shining in their eyes. Your voice matters. Your witness matters. Your courage matters. Don't ever let anyone make you believe otherwise. The room stood as one, applauding, weeping, believing. That night, Raymond and Vanessa sat on their back porch, the Atlanta skyline glowing in the distance. You know what I kept thinking during all of this? Vanessa said softly. What? How many men didn't make it home from a stop like that? How many mothers got a phone call instead of their son walking through the door? Raymond took her hand. I know. You carried their stories, Raymond. Every time you testified. Every time you spoke. You carried them. I tried. You did more than try. You changed the system. He shook his head. Not enough. Not yet. Then we keep going. He looked at his wife, his partner, his anchor, his strength. Yeah, he said. We keep going. A week later, Daniel came home from college for the weekend. He handed his father a folded piece of paper. What's this? Raymond asked. Just read it. Raymond unfolded the letter. It was an essay Daniel had written for his sociology class. The day my father became my hero again. I've always been proud of my dad. He's a senator. He fights for people. He's smart, strong, and kind. But the day he got pulled over on Cascade Road, I saw something different. I saw fear. Real fear. The kind of fear every black man in America knows but hopes his son will never have to feel. I watched the video from my dorm room, and I cried. Not because I was sad. But because I was angry. Angry that my father, a man who spent his life serving his community, could be treated like a criminal for the color of his skin. But then I watched what he did next. He didn't lash out. He didn't give up. He fought. With dignity. With courage. With a relentless belief that the system could be better. And he won. Not just for himself, but for every person who's ever been pulled over for driving while black. He turned his pain into power. His humiliation into reform. His fear into a legacy of accountability. That's my father. That's my hero. And that's the man I hope to become. Raymond's eyes blurred with tears. He pulled his son into a tight hug. I'm so proud of you, he whispered. I learned it from you, Dad. A month later, Raymond visited Ms. Lorraine Jakes at her home on Cascade Road. She welcomed him with sweet tea and pound cake, the way Southern black women always do. Ms. Jakes, I never got to properly thank you, Raymond said. She waved him off. Baby, you don't owe me thanks. I just did what was right. You did more than that. You were brave. You could have stayed inside. But you didn't. She smiled, her eyes twinkling. You know why I came outside? Why? Because 30 years ago, my son was pulled over not far from here. He was 22. Respectful. Polite. Did everything right. Her voice trembled. They beat him so bad he was in the hospital for a week. And nobody recorded it. Nobody spoke up. Nobody held them accountable. Raymond's throat tightened. So when I saw those lights on your car, I made a promise. Not again. Not on my watch. She reached over and took his hand. You gave me closure, Senator. You gave all of us closure. Raymond squeezed her hand, unable to speak. 6 months after the trial, Officer Simone Carter stood in full dress uniform at her promotion ceremony. Deputy Chief Angela Rivas pinned the lieutenant's badge on her chest. Lieutenant Carter has exemplified what it means to protect and serve with integrity, Chief Green said to the crowd. Her courage in standing up for what's right, even when it was difficult, is the standard we expect from every officer in this department. The room applauded. After the ceremony, Raymond approached her. Congratulations, Lieutenant. She smiled. Thank you, Senator. And thank you for not letting it go. I should be thanking you. You risked your career that night. She shook her head. I did my job. The job we're all supposed to do, protect everyone, not just some people. Raymond nodded. The department's lucky to have you. The community's lucky to have you. They shook hands, two people from different worlds, united by a shared belief in justice. A year and a half after the trial, Raymond received a letter. It was from Officer Jake Dawson. He stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Senator Cole, I know I don't deserve your time or your forgiveness. But I need to say this. I was wrong. Not just legally, but morally. I abused my power. I targeted people because of their race. And I did it because I thought I could get away with it. I've spent the last 18 months in prison thinking about the harm I caused. Not just to you, but to every person I pulled over. Every family I traumatized. Every community I violated. I can't undo it. But I want you to know that I'm trying to understand it. I'm in therapy. I'm reading. I'm listening to voices I used to ignore. I don't expect you to respond. I just wanted you to know that your courage changed me. Not because you destroyed my career, but because you showed me what real strength looks like. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be better. Jake Dawson. Raymond read the letter 3 times. Then he did something that surprised even himself. He wrote back. Jake. Accountability is the first step. Transformation is the second. I don't know if you'll make it all the way, but the fact that you're trying matters. I hope you become the man you wish you'd been that night. Not for me. For the next person who crosses your path. Raymond Cole. He sealed the envelope and sent it. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. But it did mean believing in the possibility of change. 3 years after the traffic stop, Raymond stood at the state capitol as the governor signed the Fair Traffic Enforcement Act into law. The bill banned pretextual stops, required independent oversight of all police misconduct investigations, and created a public database of officers with sustained complaints. It was the most comprehensive police reform legislation in Georgia's history. As cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions, Raymond looked out at the crowd. He saw Vanessa and Daniel, standing proudly. He saw Ms. Jakes, tears streaming down her face. He saw Lieutenant Simone Carter in uniform. He saw Captain, now Deputy Chief Angela Rivas. He saw Jamal, now a college freshman studying criminal justice. And he saw dozens of faces he didn't know, people who'd been pulled over, harassed, humiliated, and silenced for too long. This was for them. All of them. Would you have stayed quiet in his position, or would you have fought back like Senator Cole did? A week after the bill signing, Raymond sat down for an interview with a national news network. The anchor, a young black woman named Jasmine Harris, leaned forward. Senator Cole, you've said this fight was never just about you. What did you mean by that? Raymond thought for a moment. Every day in this country, black people are pulled over for no reason other than the color of their skin. Most of them don't have the resources to fight back. Most of them don't have cameras recording. Most of them don't have a platform. He paused. I had all of that. So my responsibility wasn't just to clear my name. It was to use my moment of injustice to shine a light on a system that does this to thousands of people every single day. And you succeeded. We succeeded. This wasn't a one-man victory. This was a community rising up and saying enough. Jasmine smiled. What do you say to people who feel hopeless? Who feel like the system will never change? I say, I felt that way too. On the side of Cascade Road, hands on my car, I felt hopeless. But hope isn't a feeling. It's a choice. And when we choose to fight together, we win. The interview aired that night. It was viewed by over 2 million people. And the comments section was flooded with stories. Stories of stops. Stories of fear. Stories of survival. And for the first time, stories of hope. 5 years after the stop, Raymond stood on Cascade Road. It was a warm evening in May, almost the exact anniversary of that night. He stood in the spot where Officer Dawson had pulled him over. The street looked the same. But everything was different. A car slowed down beside him. A young black man, maybe 25, rolled down his window. Senator Cole? Yes. I just wanted to say thank you. I got pulled over last month, and the officer's body camera was working. He was respectful. Professional. It was nothing like what my dad went through when he was my age. Raymond smiled. That's what we fought for. The young man nodded. I know. And I'll never forget it. He drove off. Raymond stood there a moment longer, feeling the weight of it all. The fear. The fight. The victory. The legacy. Then he got into his car and drove home. Slowly. Carefully. Legally. But this time, without fear. That night, as Raymond sat with Vanessa on their porch, she asked him a question. If you could go back to that night, knowing everything that would come from it, the trial, the stress, the threats, all of it, would you do it again? Raymond didn't hesitate. Yes. Why? Because some fights are bigger than us. Some moments define not just who we are, but what kind of world we're leaving behind. He looked at her. That stop wasn't just about me being humiliated. It was about every black mother who teaches her son to keep his hands visible. Every black father who has the talk about surviving police encounters. Every black child who grows up knowing they'll be seen as a threat before they are seen as a human. His voice grew stronger. If my pain could spare even one person that fear, it was worth it. Vanessa rested her head on his shoulder. You didn't just change the law, Raymond. You changed hearts. He smiled. We're getting there. Officer Jake Dawson served 3 years in federal prison and was banned from law enforcement for life. 37 officers were held accountable, 12 went to trial, 23 were terminated, 2 resigned. The Cole Accountability Act became a national model for police reform. Captain Angela Rivas became the first Latina chief of police in Atlanta's history. Lieutenant Simone Carter was promoted to captain and now leads the department's new Office of Accountability and Community Trust. Ms. Lorraine Jakes received the NAACP's Community Hero Award. Jamal graduated with honors and is now in law school, studying civil rights. And Senator Raymond Cole was re-elected in a landslide not because of his politics, but because of his courage. But the real victory wasn't in the courtroom. It wasn't in the legislation. It wasn't even in the accountability. The real victory was in the little moments that followed. The black teenager who got pulled over and wasn't afraid because he knew the officer was being recorded. The mother who didn't have to give her son the talk with the same terror her mother had given it to her. The father who watched his daughter drive off to college without the crushing fear that she might not make it home because of the color of her skin. Those were the victories that mattered. Because Senator Raymond Cole's fight was never about one traffic stop. It was about dignity. It was about humanity. It was about the simple, powerful truth that no one should be judged, humiliated, or brutalized because of the color of their skin. His victory was more than personal. It was a reminder to every black mother, every black father, every black child watching. Your dignity doesn't stop at a red light. Your rights don't end when the sirens start. And your voice, your witness, your courage can change the world. So the next time you see those flashing lights, remember Senator Raymond Cole. Remember Ms. Jakes with her phone held high. Remember Jamal recording from his window. Remember Officer Carter choosing integrity over silence. And remember that justice isn't something we wait for. It's something we fight for. Together. Sometimes it takes one moment of injustice to spark a movement. And sometimes, it takes one person's courage to light the way for thousands. This is that story. This is that fight. And this victory belongs to all of us.